guys! Thank you for checking out the Interrupting Sports YouTube channel. My name is Ray, I'm the podcast host and producer, and this is a podcast promoting positive change for the next generation by the next generation. If you guys haven't checked out Season 3, Episode 1, pause this video and go check that out first. It's titled Telling the Lion Story, and it's featuring sports writer Erica Ayala. Please go check it out, and then take a look at the blog post which highlights the 3 key takeaways. Once you've done that, then come back over to YouTube and you can watch the rest of this video. So today we're going to talk about why it's so important to tell the lion story. Okay, so what is the lion story? The lion story is actually something I learned about in my interview with Erica. Essentially, it's actually an African proverb. And what an African proverb is, it's really a part of the African culture. It's deeply rooted in that they are sayings that are used to communicate messaging and share stories, and they're passed on generation to generation to impact the ways of living and the ways of thinking. And the lion story is just that. It's an African proverb. So what is the lion story? What does it say? The lion story reads, "Until the lion tells his side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." So now what does that actually mean? Well, if the hunter is the only one sharing his story about how the hunt went, well, he's going to describe himself as the hero or make the lion look like the enemy. Whether or not that's true, one thing we do know is that the hunter is going to be glorified because it's his own story. So who wouldn't want to be the main character and the hero in the end, right? That is really the goal and the takeaway from that proverb, is that we're only hearing one perspective of the story. And the reason that that's important, or that should really spark something of interest in your mind, is that the danger with this is if we don't hear the lion story and we only hear the hunter story, that is all we will ever know. So think about this for a second. What is history? When we learn about history, you're sitting down in a classroom and you're told about some war or how some event occurred. And you grow up and you pass that knowledge on based on what you were taught. And if you were only taught the hunter's story, the one told in the hunter's voice, that is all you will think will happen, and that was all that you will believe. History isn't necessarily the story that is true. It is the story that we were presented with so many times that we believed it. And that is so deeply rooted into this cultural movement of learning about the BIPOC community, especially at a time right now in Black History Month when we're celebrating the successes and contributions of the Black community to the country. Because if we actually don't know those stories, or we think we know all of them and we're limited and we stop digging deep to discovering the true realities of how things came to light and who contributed to what, then we will never understand how they truly happened. We will just be satisfied with what we were told. And that's not enough. And that is why we're going to talk about the lion story today. So who are the lions in our everyday life? Where do we interact with them? Where do we see them? Well, I'll tell you. The lions are those who we don't hear from, or who we don't expect to hear from. The last one for us to look at. Those are the lions. Growing up, I had a teacher who said that we should never dismiss the silent kids in the classroom because often they have the most to say. And realizing that now, I understand exactly what that means. And it's the fact that those who are silent are the best listeners and they're the most observant. And really, it's not that they don't want to contribute or don't have anything to say. The situation at hand is that they don't feel that they have the means to contribute in a way that will be valued to others. They see the value, others do not see the value in them, and they recognize that dismissal, so they choose not to contribute, and instead they sit back and they observe. Their stories need to be heard too, because that changes the entire story. Remember, The hunter's glorified story is only one version. It is not the entire story. And that's why we have to really recognize who hasn't contributed. Not because everyone needs to contribute, but everyone should know that should they choose to, their contributions will be valued because everything they have to say matters. And that's something that's so crucial in today's society. I think oftentimes we find ourselves in situations where we don't value others' opinions, or say, keep your opinions to yourself is something that you can often hear, especially in the day and age of social media. But what I'm talking about here is it's not about what you have to say, because you don't know that. You shouldn't prejudge someone based on what they have to say. You have no idea what they're going to say. You should value the fact that they're willing to share it with you, because it's deeply personal. The subject doesn't have to be that deep. Choosing to share something with someone is deep, and that's the difference. So why are we talking about the line story? How can we actually apply this to our everyday lives? Well, one thing to make note of is the fact that the line story teaches us why it's important to give voice to the other. And it's not simply the fact that they have a right to be heard and we have a responsibility to hear them, but it's also because that is what it's going to take for us to lead to inclusive leadership. Diversity, equity, inclusion are terms thrown around the room day in and day out, especially during these times. And they're great. That's awesome. Let's keep throwing them around. But it's not enough to say we have to be more inclusive. We actually have to take the step to do that. And to do that, we need to give voice to the other. We need to understand other perspectives, because giving voice to the other leads to inclusive leadership. And inclusive leadership is what leads to meaningful work and impact. Now, the reason we're striving for this meaningful work and impact is because once we are at that stage, that is where we see evolution happen. Evolution of the mind and evolution of the actions that we take in our everyday lives. And that's so important because that is where different ways of thinking, new perspectives, and innovation all come to light. But we need to first open ourselves up to those possibilities. We need to give the silent kid in the room the opportunity to speak, but not just the opportunity, the encouragement to share and provide that space where he feels safe to do so without the prejudgment, the unnecessary commentary, simply allowing him to speak and truly reflecting and digesting the information that was shared. Learning from those experiences, that's what's going to open us up. And that's what truly giving voice to the other mean. It doesn't just mean, okay, everybody say something so that we can say that everybody contributed. Cool. No, that's not what it means. We have to go further than that, and we have to do better because we're striving to do something meaningful. If we're not truly meaningful with our steps at this stage, how can we expect to do something meaningful later on? It has to be meaningful throughout the entire process. And that is why the lion story is so crucial today. Thanks for watching, guys. That's all I got for you today. I hope you guys had some great takeaways from this episode. Let me know in the comments down below. As well, like this episode if you liked it. Would really appreciate that. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that the channel can grow and we can share more insights and promote positivity for the next generation. If you guys haven't already, check out the links in the description. Listen to Season 3, Episode 1, Telling the Lion Story, where I interview Erica Ayala and her journey through the sports industry. As well, check out the latest blog post where we talk about the 3 main takeaways from that episode and how Erica Ayala can help shape your journalism journey as she has in the sports journalism space. All right, guys, I will see you next week for episode 2 on the podcast. Have a great one.